Hey everyone, I have a super special guest joining today. Listen, if you want to learn how to create authority, grow an audience in your niche, I don't care. Like, if no one knows you, you could be completely new to your niche. Not a single person knows who the heck you even are. This lesson today is for you. If you've been struggling to build your audience, create a name for yourself in your niche, now's the time to fix that. We're 22 days, I don't know how you count it, 21, 22 days. We're 3 weeks away from a brand new year. 2021 is going to be the year that you build an audience, that you create authority, that you make a name for yourself. So let's give a big welcome, a huge welcome to my friend Ray Brehm. Guys, welcome Ray in the chat. And Ray, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Matt. Man, I'm pumped to be here. Excited. Love the decorations in the background there.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Festive spirit.
I'm very festive. I'm even wearing a Christmas colored, at least, shirt. Nothing really Christmassy about it, just the color. So
yeah,
I match.
I saw you and I panicked because I'm wearing blue, but just
blue's a Christmas color. It's kind of Christmassy.
Christmas colors may appear blue in your monitor today, folks, for whatever reason.
So, man, Ray, I would classify you as like the guru's guru, kind of. Is that pretty accurate?
I don't know, but you came up with that for me a while back. I think we're another, just because based on the stuff we're doing. But
Me? Right? I was the one who came up.
Yeah,
was really the one who came up with that.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to trademark it before I get off the call here.
Gurusguru.com.
The Gurus. Yeah. Well, because we were talking about it, and then actually I ran it by another guy that does Silicon Valley startups. He's like, it should be Uru, you the guru, and that's kind of how we came up with the name. But I'm everything I've done has evolved out of laziness. Basically, it's how can I do the least effort to get the most gain? And so everything I look at is based on what gives you the most credibility. And what's the 80% that doesn't really help that, and what's the 20% that does, and then how do we go from there? And a lot of that's how I met you, I think, as well.
That's too funny. So I would call you the guru's guru. I mean, just to give you guys a quick background on with Ray. Ray is again the reason why I call him the guru's guru is he's helping entrepreneurs. So you could be a small entrepreneur, you could be an entrepreneur. Like I said, nobody's ever heard of you. You've got this message, this idea, a vision for a business you want to build. You could have 1,000 subscribers, you could have 100 followers, you could have 10,000 people, 100,000 people. It doesn't matter. He's helping these entrepreneurs spread their message and increase their impact and influence. And so today he's going to reveal some of his best strategies. These are strategies he shared with me privately, and he shared in a mastermind group we were in together privately, but he's going to share some of those to help you build your business. Even like I said at the beginning, if you're a complete unknown right now. So Ray, I want to start off with a question. It's been on my mind. I want your input on it because this is something I'm just seeing a lot in our mastermind. By the way, welcome Renee and Linda. Good to have you guys on. Renee, it's so funny. You're in UK time. I just got off a call with a guy in the UK, and he, I'm going to go eat breakfast. He's like, I'm going to go eat dinner. I love that. And yet here we are. We were talking. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm still blown away by the fact that like two dudes with an ocean between us can jump on a Zoom call and instantly be communicating, over video, which is just like the most amazing thing. So that question I wanted to ask to start off with, Ray, is why do you think, your opinion, I've got some thoughts on this. What's your opinion on why people struggle to establish a name for themselves when they're just starting out online?
Overwhelming distractions, probably. I mean, and I've been there myself, and probably, I was just getting momentum when you and I first met a few years ago or whenever that was. But it's this issue. It's, one thing we've got to do as entrepreneurs, if you're trying to start a business, is protect your time above all else. And that you and I both know. I mean, it's a constant battle. I mean, I struggled with it last night and this morning, even going down rabbit holes of tech issues and everything else, and not just focusing on the things we can do to build authority and get things done right. And take a book, for instance. if you're thinking about writing a book, and you should be, you're probably thinking, well, I got to figure out how to publish it and do all these other things. Like, no, just get the book done. We can, the rest of stuff we can take. Somebody else could take care of it. You could take care of it. It's not as hard as you think, but you tend to try to like map out, okay, it's going to take all these steps, and it's going to take, everyone says it should take 2 years, and it's got to be this thick, and none of that's true, really. In fact, it's probably the opposite. So
you said,
for me,
when I asked the question, why do people struggle to establish themselves, like to establish a name for themselves? You said overwhelm and distraction. Was that the second one? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the same thing, man. I mean, I was on a call with somebody the other day, and we were talking about our mastermind, our Start mastermind, and I told him that, and the same thing like with our coaching program, we're talking about building affiliate program. The issue is getting a phone call. That's funny. Hey, Darren, the guy who called me is usually on our Facebook Lives. That's the funniest thing. So let me just interrupt myself, and I'll come back. I was talking about overwhelm and distraction. There was a total distraction there. The running joke is every time I go live, and this is so true for months, I would get a spam text message like 10, 15 minutes in trying to sell me CBD oil. It was the weirdest thing, those, I don't know if you get those, but I get one about every week, and they were always on Thursdays around 2:15 Eastern. And then I was telling this, and one of the guys who was on, who happens to have my personal cell phone number, sends me a text, and he's like, "Hey, you want to buy some CBD oil?" And I didn't get it at first, and I was like, "Wait a minute, is that?" Yeah. So anyway, the guy who just called me, Darren Sargent's actually been on. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually usually on here, so hopefully he'll join us. And then he can just ask whatever he wanted to talk about. He can just ask me, and we'll talk about it here. So I was sharing with somebody yesterday. I said that the issue is, and this is why coaching is so powerful, I think, Ray, or why having a guide, a coach like yourself or me or whoever, is when you wake up with a list of 187 things to do. How many of them do you get done?
0.
You wake up with 3 things to do. How many do you get done? All
3.
freaking 3. Fast forward 62 and a half days, you have 187 things done. And that's, so I totally agree with you. I think that's probably the number one reason. I think the other big reason, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. We actually have a podcast episode coming out on this this week. The tentative title is like 4 ways to stand out in a crowded niche. I say tentative, that actually might end up being the actual title. So that's coming out. It's coming out next week. And I'm just going to share 4 ways to stand out in a crowded niche. The subject kind of title says it all. And I think part of it is like people don't separate themselves. They don't use, they want to teach the same, they say, I can't teach the same thing as Tony Robbins. I can't teach the same thing as Oprah, but you can, you're the only one that has your story. You're the only one that has your unique story. So again, make sure you guys subscribe to the Affiliate Guy podcast so you don't miss it. Robbie, Robbie just dropped a link to Robbie's like my brain.
Quick, man.
Yeah.
He already thought of that a minute ago before you did.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Like, again, we're talking about standing out. That's how you build a niche. Like when you're coming up, what are your thoughts on like some ways maybe people can stand out a little bit?
I've been thinking about how to phrase this. This is probably an email coming out to my list shortly here, but I'm trying to think of what show was on either the turn.
I love your email style.
You read my emails?
Yeah. No, I would just say, like, we'll talk about a new opportunity that Ray has going on, at the end of this. Many of you already know about it. Many of you already have taken advantage of it, but definitely make sure you get on Ray's list. What's the best way to do that? What is the best way to do that?
The easiest way is go to raybrehm.com and get the book to business blueprint. But
so Ray Brehm, it's spelled just like it sounds.
B-R-E,
silent
yep,
H.
B-R-E-H-M, yep, raybrehm.com.
You know what they say? H before M. Wait, no. Nobody says that, actually. I had a friend of mine, his name was Craig with an E, and he used to say I before E, except in Craig. And we also shared a lot of dad jokes together. So anyway, guys, seriously, get on Ray's list because I want you to see kind of the style that he writes. It's very infotainment-ish, is how I would describe it. And I like it. yours, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your proverbial dress here. Yours are probably, you're one of like 4, maybe 5. I'm trying to think, like I'm putting you in good company. Ben Settle, um,
I'm on his list.
Kim
Yep,
Walsh
I'm on your
Phillips,
list.
Ray Edwards. Those are probably you 4, and there might be like one. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. I open almost every email. A very simple reason. I get value out of it. Like I either laugh, I chuckle, I
That's
learn
usually it.
something for my own business, and I steal. Like you're one of the people who's most frequently in my swipe file, just for the record. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there for you. What were we talking about? Oh yeah.
So there was a
Sarcasm.
show on I think it's Netflix, if
Yeah.
not Amazon, called Turn, and it's about the Revolutionary War and
Yeah.
the
Netflix.
spies and the but what brought this to my mind was in that they show the emotions behind Benedict Arnold and his, he's a traitor and he's
Oh
known as
really?
being a traitor in history, and he, if what they portray is true and what he was really feeling, he wasn't feeling valued enough by the Continental Army, so he moved, he got swayed by the British to be a traitor.
Hmm.
And when he ended up getting, so he was playing, and then there was a lot of points where he was on both sides still. And even in the end, the British didn't value him. They kind of laughed at
Yeah.
him when he was with the British side. He'd walk into parties and they'd kind of all ignore him and laugh at him. And at least that's how it was portrayed. But that the idea behind that is like, can't just please everybody, or nobody appreciates you. And I think the same with, and I started that way too. It's, well, everybody should want what I offer, and could be true. That's, the riches are in the niches, all that kind of good stuff. That's what really helped me. So, you know what? I'm not helping everybody. I'm going to help authors. And I will attract everybody. But because I chose a niche, I chose a position, and it could be a position, depending on what you're in, it could be a controversial one side or other position, but choose position will help you stand. And also choosing things done over allowing the overwhelm to come in, and we'll get into that more, I think. But
Yeah.
that, for me, that's, it's like I watch shows like that and it's very interesting, but for me, it was like that whole idea of his, it took him in the show however many episodes to decide to actually move to the British side, and the emotion behind it, and the idea that, look, I don't want to exclude anybody in my audience. And the funny thing is, you talk about Ben Settle, and that's, I've crafted the last 6 months, a lot of what I do is based on, because I open his emails every day, I open yours every day, and that's about it. Maybe Derek Depker, and so, and Derek and I are in a group with Ben now too, so we
That's fun.
we learn from him. But that right into, for me, was always lacking, was the ability for me to be creative, because I was trying to fit the mold of someone else without being myself. And now with what you're describing in the emails, I get to be like, because this is what happens to me. If I watch a show, if I read a book, if I read a news article, I'm like, how does that apply to how we think as entrepreneurs or human nature? And then I just like to write about it. Like you said, I mean, Ben openly tries to discourage people, get people off his list that are not good fits. And
Yeah.
that, that happens to me too.
Yeah, I mean the old adage, when you try to speak to everyone, you effectively reach no one. I mean,
Right.
even people with massive audiences. You think Oprah, and you go find just go to a store, find 100 people. Most of them have heard of Oprah. Maybe there'll be 5 or 10 people. They're like, oh, who? Especially some younger people. But most of them have heard of Oprah. They're going to have clear opinions about Oprah. It's going to be, I love her, I watch her all the time, or I don't really, that's not my thing. And that's totally cool. And even, her with, I don't know how many people are Oprah fans. I'm just going to guess 5 to 7 million Americans like engage with Oprah on a regular basis. That's a very large crowd. it's still a fraction of the 330 or 40 million Americans that there are. You know, it is a tiny sliver, you know, on scale. You look at, you know, I mean, the most the most successful politicians are usually not the ones who are like the middle of the road ones. You know, even you think like go back to the probably the most centrist candidate we've seen in the last, you know, what, 4 decades or 3 decades was Bill Clinton. You know, he was a very like people, you know, I mean, I know some people are, hey, he's so liberal. Not really, actually. If you look at his record, it was
Mhm.
about 2 inches left of center, you know, on like the spectrum that this wide. I mean, he was very moderate. And even he was very polarizing, you know, and so his marketing, which is what, you know, what the campaign message is, was very polarizing. Um, and so, you know, you look at anything, any industry, it's the polarizing ones that say they kind of put their stake in the ground and say, this is my territory. If you're out here, you're not for me. I think that's very powerful. So I want to talk about this word guru. Um, I'm curious in the chat if anybody has a negative connotation of the word guru or says, I'm not a guru. Because my thought is my hallucination, as Tony Robbins would say, is that a lot of people don't see themselves as a guru on any topic, let alone the topic that they're trying to build a platform about. They don't see themselves as a guru. So what, first of all, what's your definition of a guru? What does the word guru mean to you?
That's a good question, because as you're talking, I'm going through my mind, like a couple of years ago, my son asked me a question and he said, you know, and I said, gosh, I don't know. And he said, man, you know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, of course,
Because
that's
you're
how
the dad.
fathers,
Yeah.
and I was in thought of my dad and how I could just, you know, gosh, he knew how to, you know, bend a nail sideways. You know, I don't know. But so to me, this is a great question, because this is the trap we all fall into. We're not able to even share our message till we've got some phantom level of success that is unmeasurable anyway. And a guru is somebody that can help you get to where you want to go, and that could be somebody that's one step ahead of you. I've often gotten more value from people that had just done what I wanted to do than somebody who did it 5 or 10 years ago and is
Of course.
the person, the person most well known. So I think for my purposes, I want people to understand that if they've got a message to share, if they've got information to share, if they've got a skill, they're a guru to somebody else. And then it's just a matter of, it's almost more of a matter of convincing yourself you are than convincing others. And so that's a lot of what I do. And, as far as I see some things in the chat about differentiating. So, I went through when I was just getting started, and I had my own brick and mortar company back in the day, but I was just getting started in the self-publishing niche. And, I was in these masterminds with other entrepreneurs, and people are quite, well, what kind of, who gave you the right to help people publish books, or, get that stuff. And it's like, because I'm passionate, and enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And I can learn that, I'm convinced tech wise, anything, I can learn any of that stuff. And everybody watching this can too. And, or the worst case, you hire out, the tech, if you can't do tech, that's easy to get that taken care of for you. And the tools today are just, amazing anyway. But, it's that mindset that somebody else has got to judge you to be, there's no guru certificates, although maybe we should start a guru university or something, but which is kind of what I did with Guru. Yeah. But it's the ability to help someone else achieve their goals, really. And
there you go.
And when I was
that's
starting
the best
out,
definition I've ever heard, actually. I like that one.
Are we recording this? I forgot what I just said.
Robbie, can you type that out and put that up on the screen? Yeah, I want to, man, say that again. Say that again. What was if you remember what you said there? Exactly.
I was already after my next thought.
You're like me. See, this is the thing. Ray and I are so similar. This is why, and this is one of the reasons why I love Robbie. Like Robbie's on when we do our coaching calls. Robbie has absolutely has he been. He would, he's behind the scenes right now. So by the way, when I'm talking to Robbie, like Robbie's not the mythical feature. You've all seen him. You've all seen Robbie. You know who I'm talking about. But he's behind the scenes mainly. So because Ray and I have big enough heads, we take up half the screen. And so if Robbie were on, he would only get like this little sliver over there, because he's really humble. But the thing about Robbie is on all of our coaching calls, and he knows 90% of what I would say. He would say, well, I only know 70%. No, he knows 90. The problem is the 10% that he doesn't know right now that he'll learn over time, over the next few months, is stuff that I don't even know that I'm saying half the time. Like it's situational and the client's asking a question and I'm answering it. And Robbie's like, that was good. I'm like, I don't even remember what I said. Thankfully, he documented it. So I'm really glad he did. So yeah, a guru is someone who helps someone else achieve their goals. And you mentioned this, Ray, that, a lot of times the best person to teach something is someone who's just done that thing. One of our mastermind members in our Start Mastermind is a guy named Alan Thomas, and many of you know who he is now. Alan, Alan lost 129 pounds, and then within months afterwards was teaching others how to do the same. He wasn't the guy who's like, I've been fit all my life and look at me with my 6-pack abs. I'll help you go from 400 to 200 pounds. No, you won't. You have no point of reference for that. You have no point of reference. I often say that one of the best places to lead from is the picture that I paint, Ray, is if you've ever done this, if you've ever gone on a hike with like one of your, like, if you ever gone on a hike with like the guy who wears like the shorty shorts, and he's got like the shorty shorts and the tank top, and he's always like going on a hike like this, like he jogs in place for no apparent reason. You know who I'm talking about. Always smells,
Yes.
he's always like, it's like, how do you tell a person who does CrossFit? Don't worry, they'll tell you. And, he's always talking about CrossFit and he smells like Suit Mix. And, he's doing this all the time. And you go on a hike with him, you're 3 miles in, he's 5 miles up and he's yelling, hey, come on, man, hurry up. Is that a leader? No. Or is a leader the guy who's right here reaching one hand back saying, watch your step? You're hiking along a dangerous cliff and he's telling you, watch your step. And he's right there with you. Sometimes you need that person, you need the aspirational side. And sometimes you just need a person who's one step ahead. And I think that's a really important distinction you made there.
I think Rachel Hollis has this great quote where she says, basically, don't compare your middle to somebody else or your start to somebody else's middle.
You know who she got that from? Stephen Furtick, because I quote him all the time on that. Never compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end. Yeah.
And that's why, you could start with that on everything you teach and everything you do, because immediately when you start learning something, you're like, but how am I remember in fact, I heard her say that at a Brendan Burchard event. Mm-hmm. And as she was saying, I'm like, oh my gosh, she was reading my mind, because I was sitting here looking at the huge crowd and thinking, how am I ever going to be like Brendan Burchard? And it's like, well, you one step at a time. For one, let's worry about the next thing, and you'll figure out if you even want to be there. Because you can, the whole 1,000 raving fans thing, that's completely true.
Yeah,
you don't need a huge audience, and that's what the thing is. Most people, there's this obsession with traffic, and
traffic meaning traffic to your website.
Yeah, like cold traffic is more what I'm thinking. But if you slowly build your audience, or not, in that, it doesn't have to be slow, because we'll talk about some things about how to do that. But if you methodically build a good audience, you don't have to, you don't need a room of 5,000 people, or 100,000 on your email list. You can do very well with people that are really helping. And so it's, those are the things that you got to get over. And it took me forever to figure that stuff out. And
think about, when I say this, it's like, we think about the irrationality of thinking, well, I started my website 2 months ago. How am I ever going to be Brendan Burchard? Imagine an 11-year-old kid playing any sport. We'll just pick football, and going, how am I ever going to make it to the NFL right now?
Yeah,
You're 11. 11-year-olds they can't play in the NFL. I think there's a minimum age of 20 or something. You can't, like, you've got 9 years. No, you got to finish Pop Warner and then go to middle school and then go to high school and play a year or two in college before you go to the NFL. Like, even if you take out the legality of it, it's a 11-year-old baseball player. But, I can't hit a major league fastball right now. You look at the guys that are hitting 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. I can't do that because you're 11. And when you're 2 months into starting your blog, you're not even the equivalent of an 11-year-old. You're the equivalent of maybe a toddler, maybe a kindergartner. And you're asking a kindergartner to be able to write a treatise on macroeconomics. It's this are there like this is the thing. I think what we look at, and I love studying the outlier dots. I think that's important. But I think we can look at those outlier dots and go, you know, they've been in business for 9 months, and look at them. They have an audience of 50,000 people and a Facebook following, and they're speaking on stage. They just started their business 9 months ago. They're one of like 4 people who've ever done that. And you just have to remember that. It would be like looking at the 5, right? We read this article the other day. This kid went to college when he was like 6. If you compare your kids to the kid who went to college when he was 6, you're screwing up. Like, you're going to mess your kids up. So please don't ever do that. And I think when we do that, it's I don't know. We do that with ourselves though. Like, we would never do that with our kids. Yeah, my kid's 9 and he's only in 5th grade. What a failure. No, we would never do that. So Renee says, I'm not a fan of Guru. People can call me an expert. Feels a little self-absorbed to use it for yourself. Maybe that's a mindset thing. I would kind of agree. Another person said, doesn't it mean all knowing in that particular field of expertise? It might be the technical definition. I don't think it means all knowing. I think it means, I think it goes back to what you said. Able to communicate it would make you the guru. Able to get others to know it. I don't know everything there is to know about affiliate marketing. Newsflash, I don't. I don't know everything about building an affiliate program. But I know enough to, Mars the marketer, Mars Burden, somebody who's like, a lot of people know just as much as you. And I'm like, yep. And he's like, but they can't communicate it. They can't teach this stuff. And I think that's the important distinction, that you want to be in that guru field.
Well, no one's saying go out and call yourself the guru. I mean, I wouldn't, that's not the point of what we're talking about. And also, I think the people that do, because you just gave me, that's to me, the telltales of somebody, if they know what they're doing or don't. The ones who admit they don't know, half of what there is to know out there, I'm more likely to follow them than the ones that are self-proclaimed. I mean, it's, like we talked about Ben Settle, and he like poo-poos any idea that he's any good, and he's amazing, right? Mm-hmm. Yet there's other people out there calling themselves copywriting, geniuses or whatever. And it's like, well, if you're going to, with the amount of high quality copywriters in the world, anybody that says that, it's kind of crazy. Doesn't mean you can't teach copywriting.
Like copywriting is the proof truly is in the pudding. Like, right. If I read your copy talking about how good you are and it's not very good, I mean, you have no chance with me. You have lost all credibility. If I say I'm a great affiliate manager, then you join one of our affiliate programs and I run it like crap, I just lost all credibility. Yeah.
This is, personality. There's certain people that like to, I've never liked to be calling myself anything except, bad jokes and stuff. But, and I look, I try to just, if somebody wants for me to launch their book, I try to just talk them out of it. Mm-hmm. It's because most of the time I've come in with the wrong idea about it. And, so it's, I just, to me, it's just the idea of like, the idea of guru here is for you to get past the negative talk that's in, on the, the left side of your head or whatever it is. All these guys, Russell Brunson, yours, the story is amazing too. Nobody has ever made this overnight millions in the internet. It seems like it, right?
Yeah.
Because all
I
of a
mean,
sudden you hear their
very true.
name and they're doing well, but that's because they've been running it. Like the people that, this is another thing. I fell for this, you know, all I got to do is get online and start running Facebook ads and I'm going to be wealthy. It's crazy. You got to run this like a real business. And that doesn't, the great thing about the internet is you don't have to go get a lease and an office and buy
Mhm.
inventory and all that stuff for, depending what you're doing. But it still takes some time and, and planning and doing things the right way. And one of the things you mentioned, that's why I say follow Ben Settle too, because I'm kind of like this cold traffic stuff. There's a faster way to do it. For me, it's getting to other people's audiences, talking to them, getting an intro like you're doing here, or somebody recommending a book, or like one of the things I love, virtual summits. You're getting warm audiences that are engaging with you for a short period of time. All of a sudden, they get to know you real well, and that's why I don't like. Everybody needs a book, but you don't have to waste 2 years on it. Everybody needs a summit, but you don't don't wait. I've got, and that's the other thing. People come to me and say, I need to launch my book first, then I'll do a summit. I'm like, I would do the summit first and
Oh
launch
yeah,
your book on the
I
back
want to
end.
talk about that in a moment. In fact, let me type a note. Why? Yeah, that's dude. I want to talk about that. I want to hang out on the guru thing just for a moment, Ray, because I think there's a couple comments and I think that are pretty powerful. And then I want to talk about summits and books because I think those are super super important. Uh, just want to say, Renee says totally see this. Some experts are so far away from where they started, they become kind of unbelievable. The next nearest level is
That's
more
exactly right, Renee. Yeah.
attainable somehow. Yeah. Yeah, so true. So then Gwen, I just want to speak to Gwen. Gwen, I mentioned before, him and Mary as well. They're in our Start Mastermind. Gwen says, but it's frustrating when you're 20 years older than your 8-figure mentor, but you're not 20 years older in your business life. I know who she's talking about. I'm not going to mention Brendan Burchard's name on that, but um, but
Yeah.
Brendan, I mean, he's been in business in his current business basically for 15, 17, 18, 20 years. So you're not 20 years older, than him. It would be like, I mean, the equivalent would be if I'm literally in the best shape of my life. But if I went and tried to run in a half marathon with yeah, again, like that friend, right? He wears like the really short shorts and the tank. Again, he's the type of guy that when he goes, like when I go running downtown, which is let me think, never. And I get to a stop sign, I go. When he gets to a stop sign, he does this. I'm like, don't do that. That's weird. Don't jog in place. You know, and so this friend who's like constantly running in these events, right? I'm he could be 10 years younger than me, which actually in running would be advantageous, but still we could be the same age, but he's been running for 20 years. I've been running for 6 months, you know. There's no possible way I can compete with that right now. I would not compare myself to him. Now, at some point, probably when we're both 50, when I have 10 years in it, at some point, the gap's going to close. And so I look at it when you're small. One of the advantages you have is you can close the gap. You can start closing the gap really fast because somebody who has 300,000 subscribers, doubling their list could take 10 years. When you have 1,000 subscribers, you could double your list in a day with the right
Yeah.
affiliate partner. Literally, you could double your list before noon tomorrow if somebody sends an email tomorrow morning. So just like don't compare yourself to that. When
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, and this is to Gwen's question: is if she's, you know, 20, how many other people are 20 years older than Brendan and feeling frustrated too, and need a leader who's 20 years older than Brendan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's
they
a
don't need
niche.
some. I mean, I don't know how old Brendan is, but I think he might even be like a year younger than me or something. I mean, like who wants this little pumpkin? You just want to go up to him and be like, oh, No, I
He's,
mean that
I
was
love him, but
that was
you're right.
exactly what I that was exactly what I talked to a lady the other day, and she's 60. I think she's 63. She might be 64. I know she
She's
said,
saying he's 41.
yeah, okay. So whatever. He's got a lot less.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the other thing is
Well,
he
he's had
looks
male pattern baldness
22.
since he was
So
25. So,
yeah,
you know, but like, if you think
that plays into it.
I was talking to her about that, and I said the exact same thing that you just said. She was like, "Well, I can't teach stuff," and I said, "Well, who's your target audience?" And she said, "Retirees." And I go, "You are the perfect person to teach this stuff." She's like, "Well, I don't understand the technology as well as other." I said, "Do you understand it better than your target audience?" She's like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Okay, do you really think that your target audience of retirees want some, 15-year-old who's like, you're the tech guy? I think Jimmy Fallon played him on SNL. Every time somebody had a tech problem, he go, move." And that's how a retiree envisions, like the young pumpkins, teaching tech stuff, because she's going to teach people how to, basically build an at-home business online, making an extra $1,000 a month, if you're a retiree. Like, you are literally the perfect person. I said, the cool thing is you only have to stay one step ahead. Like, you can literally be learning stuff, but then you teach it with your own spin. And just the fact that she literally has the blue hair, like literally, she joked about it. She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I've got everything. I've got the blue hair and it all." She's like, "I aged early." She's got the wrinkles. She's got the blue hair. She wears the blue blocker sunglasses. This is all stuff that she told me. She, like, it's her brand. And I'm like, that's your brand. Like, I was like, go get a little, I said, I think your logo should be like the black and white silhouette with the blue blockers on, the big sunglasses and like the curly, like, just had the
Yeah,
hair.
that's great.
She's like, that's awesome. She's gonna go do that. And in one, I don't know, we've talked for maybe 12 minutes. I took her from on the ledge, ready to give up on this thing, to, oh my goodness, I am the perfect person to teach this stuff. So I think that, it's so true.
That it goes back to what Renee's saying in the chat. The next nearest level is more attainable somehow. Think about that, especially for the people that are older than Brendan in that case. Look, for me, I love his courses, but
Mhm.
He's getting millions of people, and he can't help them personally. I mean, there's a trend to me that there's smaller groups of niches of people helping people. There's this longing, especially now that everybody's locked in. There's this longing to be connected to people who's teaching you, which all of this favors us who are in smaller audience. Not, it doesn't hurt Brendan and all the other guys that are up there, but it certainly helps us, the ones that do want connection with our audiences, and the audiences want connection. I mean, sometimes it's just a simple reply to an email, and you can make somebody's day, or you can send them a video that helps them get past some stuff. You can't, all due respect, you can't reply to one of Brendan's emails and get an answer from him on something. And I'm not saying you should, but there is a huge opportunity for people that really want to engage with their audiences and help them. And, we should all be welcoming that.
Gwen, I love your comment. The Midwestern helmet head perm with the standing Tuesday hair appointment. You just described my grandmother. So yeah, God rest her soul. Okay, so earlier you said something. You said everyone needs a book. Like, everyone, really? Tell me. I honestly don't actually know your feelings on that exact statement. I'm kind of curious.
Okay, I guess maybe everybody doesn't, but why not? If you're teaching something, like, it doesn't mean you have to want to be a writer or love to be a writer. And I think that's one of the hurdles too.
I like having written, but
I like coming up with the idea, and I like having the book, hold up the book, if I get that on the camera. But
just
the in-between part, that's like, oh man, I'm just tomorrow I'll start on that. That's why all the things that you kind of need to be involved in, but maybe not 100%, you need a framework. And that's what and that's where kind of one of my first counterintuitive approaches to a niche really helped me out. So I wrote my first book, and I don't have it here, but Author Your Success. I'd been on a couple other co-author books before that, but it was about writing a book, and it was like 35,000 words, and took me 9 or 10 months. You know, the self-editing and all the other crap. It was just like, you know, part of it was I was figuring out the process at the time, but you know, it was a book mostly about why you need a book. But because I had helped a buddy write a book, and I co-authored with him on real estate, and as soon as he sent that book out to people who had been in his seminars, he got like $100K back investment from just, you know, doing the book. And all we did for that was turn one of his seminars into a book, but that's another story. So the point is, I did all this work, and I'm like, I wanted, you know, before I wrote the book, I had like, oh, I'm going to write these 5 books and blah, 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 blah. And then when I actually did it, I'm like, this sucks. You know, it's not me. I like the creative part, but having to sit at a keyboard and ding, 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 that didn't fit. Yet I love the ideas for, you know, the coming up with books and the content. How can I make this fun? So I went right away. That book came out. I sat down and said, I'm going to just write the process of how I did this book, but take out the 80% of the BS. And then I just put it on pre-order and said, this thing will be available in 26 days. And I just wrote the book, and that was kind of the early beginnings
of what, 100-page book or so? How big was it? Well,
so the second one was like 12,000 words, but I basically sat down. I said, okay,
yeah.
I'm just going to sit down and pretend somebody asked me over lunch how they could write and self-publish a book.
Yeah.
And I just went through the steps that they needed. And that book blew away the other one. Everybody was like, oh, I could read this in one sitting, and it was so helpful, and no fluff and this and that. And it kind of made me like kind of the, hey, short and to the point guy. And then, you know, that evolved. You and I, you know, whatever, a year ago, we talked about my 7 book writing hacks for entrepreneurs. That's where taking existing content you already have, turning it into a book. And then I said, I need to polish this system off and give it to everybody. And that's what I did with this super system for authors is, look, here's how the other thing is, then you get done with the book and you're like, okay, next thing all the gurus say to do is create a course. Let's start all over and create a course.
Yeah.
And then, oh, hey, by the way, you should have an audiobook because those sell better, make more money than, you know, I don't know if they sell better, but they're more profitable than books. And, you know, so you need and it's like, okay, so I'm booked for the next 2 years just trying to get this one thing going, when I realized that book royalties aren't, you know, that's not the thing for income anyway. And so I said, no, I want a system where I actually create the course and the book at the same time. That's what I did with Super System. And that was basically the next version of that 7 book writing hacks. And that became my niche. And now it's like, okay, let's do a virtual summits book. Let's do a copywriting book. I can't see, I getting the mirror effect on my camera here. And now I got a system now where I don't have to do, all I have to do is come up with the idea and talk. And, you know, I'm coming out with a book. It'll probably be not till the summer, but it's, you know, how to turn your virtual summit into a book. So, because all you need really is a framework that you can use once, and then you make it your own and you can tweak it and so forth. And that's the same way I feel about, you know, summits. I've got a framework now. Writing these short books, I've got a framework. So there's another book coming out. I've got a mobile apps book coming out in this series in 4 months or something. And I just put them out. In fact, that book's out there for sale. It's not even written yet. I think it's actually June 8th or something. It's coming out, but it's, you know, on mobile apps. But I know how to, you know, I know what needs to go into it. I know I've got the knowledge of it. Let's just get it done. And let's not listen to all the, you know, the other experts that are telling you need $5,000 in coaching just to, you know, and I'm not talking about good coaching like you were talking about earlier. I'm talking about this just kind of like, buy my coaching and we'll cheer you on writing your book every month. It's like, no, you don't need that. You know, let's just get your succinct idea down, use a framework to get it done. And, you know, but back to the question you asked is, why does everyone need a book? The first thing I do now when somebody sends me something like, hey, can you promote my thing? Or, you know, Amazon is kind of like the resume database of, you know, does this person know what they're talking about? Let me see if they've got a book. And so I go check. And then if it's like, okay, them and this other person have a book, does anyone have more than a book on the subject? Now look, and Yeah, and I get what you're saying, because like
It's the
look,
world's greatest business
you've
card.
you've built this amazing business before. Well, you've got a couple books coming, you've got other
Right.
stuff out, right?
Yeah.
So the point is like, it's a great start for people, because having a book out there about publishing books has helped me connect with all these other influencers that are in the self-publishing world.
Hmm.
And if I was just somebody that wrote a book on, underwater basket weaving, well, how we help each other. But no,
Yeah.
it's like, I've got an audience. I've got a book on this. Do you want to get on my summit, or do you want to do something like that? And so to me, it's subtle, like nobody's talking about it, but it really is, like you said, a business card, resume. I want to know. And then, there's, um, when you look at stuff, I mean, take virtual summits, for instance. There's not even that many books on virtual summits out there. And so you could check your niche, or your particular niche, but there's some of these people that are, the smaller your niche is, even the better chance you have to dominate it by having
Totally.
a book, because you go search on Amazon's one of the largest search engines in the world. You go type in your niche, and then what comes up. So even, but the point I'm making too is, you don't waste 2 years trying to get it done. Get a book. It could be like you said, 100-page, or let me see how long these are. This one's,
You're speaking. I mean, I'm the choir. I'm the choir here. You're
yeah.
speaking for me, and I'm like,
I mean, this one's 55 pages,
yeah.
and but it's all good,
So this
executable
kind of
content.
addresses Jolene's question, which is, I've created a $97 course. Do I need to turn it into a book and sell it for $7? Uh, I mean, I think you have both, and I mean, I don't know what your philosophy is, but I've kind of seen, I've kind of seen the book is very similar to what you said. It's, if I had a plane ride, or a lunch, it'd be a long lunch. It's not going to be a 45-minute Taco Bell trip. But, it's going to be a sit down lunch, hour and a half to 2.5 hours. If I had an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to give them the why, and to give them some of the tools, to give them the inspiration, to give them the mindset, those are important things, but not necessarily the exact, everything, like not all the how. So the 2-hour version would be the book, Joel. And this is my opinion. I'm curious about yours. Yeah. Now you want to take it to the next level, and you want to learn, how to do. So take, for example, our book that'll be out sometime next year, The Passion to Profit Path. It's all about, what are the steps? Now, am I teaching you every little aspect of those steps? No, I'm not. That would be a 800-page book. So if you want to learn the mechanics of it and all those things, then yeah, there'll be a higher level course. But what the book will do is get you going, okay, first of all, it's possible to turn my passion into a profit. If you don't believe that, that's foundational. If you don't believe that you can even build a profitable business, I could literally hand you our playbook step by step, and you never be able to execute on it because you don't have the belief. So that's number one. Secondly, it gives you the outline, and kind of I almost look at it as like, the book it's not the 30,000 foot view. The 30,000 foot view would be like me describing the book. That would be the back of the book. That's the 30,000 foot view. Okay. Then the actual book is probably going to be the 10,000 foot view. The course is going to be the 5,000 foot view. And then coaching would be the, like, I'm on the ground literally with you, showing you, like, step by step. Is that, what is your take on that, I guess?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at some things that Renee said here, and then Gwen saying I'm doing it backwards. I
No,
would be
you're doing it
interested.
the right way, I think.
Yeah. First of all, this, and then Jolene's talking about overwhelm, so we'll try to address all those here.
Yeah.
But one is, well, first, Gwen, I'd like to read the I Quit Migraines book myself, because I get migraines.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You totally need to connect with Gwen then. She can help you, dude. Seriously. I mean, you'll need to get her course. It'll be out. I'm pushing her to get it out like now.
There's a big, I mean, it's interesting because there's a big audience in that. Now, what like for this, let me just give you an example. So the super system that's the kind of just the process for me. And that's what I'm saying. Like with all of my Uru stuff, it's like, look, if you're starting from scratch, just get somebody else's framework, borrow it the first time, and you're going to learn it. But just going out there and learning how to get into creating, it's not even, it's super easy. Create a KDP account, upload a manuscript, get a cover in there, click, and you're published. And, back to, what Jolene's saying, there's a bunch of different ways you can go with this. You could just having the book could be like one of my, that second book that I knocked it down to 12,000, the author startup. That's free now on Amazon. It's permanently free. I get however many leads a day from that. I know I get 20 or 30 downloads a day, sometimes 200 a day on Amazon for that. So, and that was, I went back and forth. Like that was my flagship book for a while. And then it's like, you know what? I got other stuff. Let's make this free. Let's brings people into the world and my world and see if they like my stuff. A lot of people just, want to get a taste of you before they move on to the next step. And it could be anything. So I had a summit called the Book Profit School that Matt actually had 2 sessions on. And the second time we were in the summit, I promised people they would get a book about running a virtual summit. This was it, Virtual Summits for Authors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so busy and everything, and that the summit was starting in like 10 days. And I'd promised this book free to people who registered for the summit. It wasn't written yet. Now, I had it all in my head. I knew what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So I took out my super system and I wrote this in 4 hours on July 4th.
And how big is that one? I mean, because page count doesn't mean a darn thing to me. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 10,000 words. It's about 55 pages. I mean, here's the thickness.
Yeah, just to give you some perspective. I mean, you
right.
think about a 55-page playbook though. I want to put that into perspective though, because I think this is important. We compare it to Tools of Titans, which is every interview Tim Ferriss ever did for years, with all these people, 3-4 pages each. Yeah, I mean, which by the way, there's the playbook on how you turn a podcast into a book. There's no new information in the book. Not a single thing that wasn't said. If people don't know that, if people don't know the book Tools of Titans and then Tribe of Mentors, I think is the other one. It's literally just notes from it's the Cliff Notes version of his podcast. It's all it is, which is great because you know what? I'm never going to listen to 300 2-hour interviews. I mean, I've been listening.
Have you read the whole Tools of Titans?
I've read both of them. Yeah.
The whole thing?
Yeah, easy for me to read, right?
Yeah.
Easy for me to read. I've been on the same Joe Rogan episode for 4 days. It's the one he did with Kanye West. And he comes out with a new 3-hour episode every single day. You know how many I listen to? Once a month. That's about all I can do. I just don't have the time to listen to a 3-hour podcast every day. I get it. If you drive for a living, you could probably listen to an episode a day, But if I was a truck driver, I would listen to Joe Rogan. And then I would want 4 other podcasts every day. But anyway, my point there is we compare it to the 300-page book, the 500-page book, whatever. We compare it to Atlas Shrugged, which is 1,200 pages, small print.
Which I've read the thing that took a long time to read.
I've just finished listening to it for the second time. I will never read the book. But imagine.
That's a great point, by the way. Because I read it. I'm a Kindle guy. I kind of doze when I'm audio. People like different stuff. So that's part of the reason you need to get, somebody likes a book, somebody likes a course. And of course, there's more in the course than the book.
Yeah. But imagine you were coming to work for my company and I handed you a 55-page playbook and said, this is how we run virtual summits. Would you go, wow, I really feel like that should be 200 pages? I think that's
you appreciate it.
No. And you would still go, wow, 55 pages. That's actually a lot. That's a pretty in-depth playbook. I mean,
by the way,
playbook is maybe 188 pages and it's, there's a lot of superfluous. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Superfluous. Yes. Superfluous.
That's the first time I've ever had to say that in my life, but I know I've heard it said. Yeah. But it's so there's a couple things here because I talk about this. That was the whole, and we'll get to that in a second. But the whole idea behind Uru and it's guarding your time. It's also that means that you've got to selectively consume things. And that's where I hit the wall with all these $2,000 courses that are 80 hours long. And and you're watching a 1 hour video to get one nugget out of it that drives me nuts. And so most of my courses now are any individual modules between 5 and 8 minutes. If it's longer than that, then I got to look at it and say, was I blabbing too much or telling too many stories? But I do want to say this. So I did this in 4 hours on 4th of July, got it into the summit, and I got an email back a couple days after the summit saying, Ray, I usually ignore freebie ebooks, but yours was, great. It really opened my eyes to virtual summits. Now, the summit itself I ran was about books and profiting from books, and virtual summits was one of the things. And within a week, the person who sent me that email spent $20,000 with me for done for you virtual summits. So had I not sacrificed 4 hours on a Saturday to finish which that's not it could be in 4 hours on a Monday. Had I not done that, that's somebody who would have just been like, virtual summits is off in the future. I'll get to it. He was working on a book, and what ended up happening, and I think part of it's because of the print delivery times and stuff, he delayed the book and launched a summit, and he just did it a few weeks ago and killed it. Brought in, and it was like a fast tracked summit, and he had Danny Inney on there and Vern Harnish and all these people he couldn't even believe he got to interview. And then he made a bunch of money, had a huge list. He did a webinar after selling a course. So that's that's part of it. And so I think, like, for me, and Renee's just mentioned grabbing Ray's book after. That's the point of it, is like, if I came on and said, hey everybody, I got a $2,000 course or what, it's like, well, who is this guy and what is he about? But you can, for 99, or whatever it is, a few dollars, you can read the Kindle version and see if you like what I say and how I teach. And it's a good, even frictionless way to do it. And by the way, every book thumbnail, if you go on Amazon and you pull up Atlas Shrugged and you pull up this 55-page book, they look exactly the same size on Amazon. Unless you go down and look at the page count. The thumbnails look the same. You have a book, your author name's there, you can create your author page. If for nothing, no other reason, it's giving you that authority. It's kind of like the yellow pages. Like I said, I go check I don't know this person. Do they have a book? Or somebody says I'm writing a book, or I'm an author, and I go check and see if they've actually got a book. And maybe I'm the only person that does that. I don't know, but I don't think so. And
I'm trying to find a few books. I mean, even if it's
and by the way, like, if somebody sends me an email or something, I just and they're like, hey, how do you write the book description? It's like, well, you know what, here's a link to my a free copy of this or whatever.
I just pulled 3 books. So even if it's not the 99 cent or $2.99 or $3.99, and these are 3 quote unquote normal sized books, every single one of them is under $20. And every single one of them has highlights upon highlights with pictures taken of pages, ideas generated. I mean, like, I just like, and this isn't me selling any of these books or your books for that matter. It's just, when you put this out, you have to think about, like, this little book right here. I mean, there are 30, 40 highlights in here. Those are life-changing type things, like business-changing type things. I actually got, these are all books by people, well, except for the one with Stephen King. I have not interviewed Stephen King. I've got an interview with this guy coming out, Jake Thompson, you guys are going to love. But, like, point on that is, even if it's a $15 book, it's a very small barrier to entry for most of the human population. Most people can swing, an Amazon purchase. I want to address a couple other questions, and then I want to talk about something really cool you've got going on.
I just want to commend Gwen that she is a Kindle hoarder. I mean,
this goes in with the question, like, book, blog, quiz, summit, webinars, overwhelm. Where on earth do we really start? Jolyn says. And that kind of goes in with what you said earlier. You mentioned, should you have the book first or the summit first? And your philosophy is you should do the summit first. And I mean, share your thinking on that. But I mean, I think we can all kind of hopefully read between the lines on that. But why do we want to do something like a summit or something that brings in an audience before we have the book?
Well, I think you just answered the question. Most people that are first writing a book, you're throwing me softballs. For instance, I'll give you the first thing. Tim Grahl, who I've spent some time with, great book launch guy. his observation of what makes a great author is the people are like, wow, they have audiences, all that. And it's like, no, the great authors are the ones who actually want people to read their books. And I remember, like, and this is going to be everybody. Your first book comes out, and maybe not you because you're like a superhero, but your first book comes out and you're like, I just want a lot of good reviews, but I don't want people to read it because they might not like it. And there's going to be people who like it and people who don't, unless you just wrote something that's completely boring and you got a few friends to write reviews.
No, I don't care. I mean, I actually look forward to somebody saying something like, this is too advanced, this is too beginner, I already knew all this stuff. It's like, cool. Like, the fact that you already knew all this stuff actually means this is verifiable, because you know what? 99 out of 100 people who will read my book don't know all the stuff. They might not even know half of it or a third of it or a quarter of it. And newsflash, it's like, I'll just use this one. I'm just going to go to a random highlight in here. Embracing process is about choosing to focus on how you can get better every day over worrying about what others might. Well, that's ironic that I would turn to that. Okay, here's a statement. You can care about what everyone thinks, or you can care about getting better, but you can't do both. I already knew that. I intellectually knew that, but reading that struck a chord with me and reminded me that I can care about getting better or care what people. I mean, I did not plan that, by the way. That was totally ironic that I turned to that page. But my point to turning to that highlight is half the stuff I highlighted in this book or this book or this book or any of the other books is stuff I already knew.
Here, I'll give you a great, because this may come up, but one, we talked about, like, hey, if you're in the super niche, you can dominate it easily. Get a book out there on Amazon. If you're in one, like for me, self-publishing, God, there's thousands and tens of thousands of books on it out there. Well, guess what? So you're thinking, well, if I write a book and then I get lost in the crowd, well, I mean, there's ways to obviously get it up in the Amazon algorithm and all that stuff. But the other point is, if you think about like someone like Gwen and I, we don't just buy one book on the topic. When I was starting out in self-publishing, I read every book I could find on self-publishing, and I was reading the same information probably 80% of the time.
Yeah, but the 20% was worth it.
Yeah. If I can get one nugget out of the next book, I do it. But then guess what? You start thinking, okay, now I start looking at the books and saying, that book interests me. I scroll down and like, how many pages is it? And now I'm saying, look, I want to consume a bunch of these. I can't consume this 500-page book. Oh, here's one that's 180, for me, 80 to 100 pages. And they calculate it based. If you just have the Kindle up there, it's just kind of an estimate, but still, that gives me an idea. Like, can I consume this, and will I consume it? Because the other thing that gets demoralizing, and that the same goes for courses and long books, is you start putting them in your Kindle, like Gwen and I, or you start putting them on your browser, favorites or whatever, and having a list of this course graveyard of courses that aren't completed, that you never completed. That gets a little demoralizing after a while. It's like, I got to go back to that one, but I just saw this other one that seems so interesting, so I bought that. And we're not going to discuss how much I've spent on courses and everything else, and cold traffic ads and all that. And to me, having gone through that, people don't have to do that. And
shelf development. I love that term, Renee. That's awesome.
What did you call it? Shelf development. Yes. Yeah. And so, to me now the goal is like, if I don't want to write books that people read half of. There's really no reason they can't finish one of these in about an hour and a half at most. And if they need more info, guess what? Then they can go to a course. They can Google the pieces that they need, as far as whatever the tech is. Because, obviously I'm not going to do demos in here, but I am talking about strategy and why you would do certain things. And then, but meanwhile, I create that. So that super system, I create the course and the book at the same time. Yeah. And then the book doesn't have I'm not withholding anything in the book, but I can't do certain things if I'm going to demo stuff. And then the course will evolve too. As I get feedback on it, I might add some demos like, oh, they really didn't understand this part. But the book's not supposed to teach every little, mouse click or anything like that. So But that saves a lot. You get done with a book and you're exhausted, and then you're like, okay, now I got to create the course. And me, no. I can spend a good 4 hours and have a book and a course done. Now there's some processing that has to take place, but after that, but I've got that, the course is done. Maybe I got to edit it and a little bit, and so it gets things done a lot quicker. And I do want to touch back on, I think Renee said it, but the $7 versus it, the other thing you can do is put your book out there and price it at 99 bucks on Amazon and establish value as opposed to trying to sell. It's just the goal of it. So for
My
instance,
friend Ridgely Goldsboro does that. His book's $199.
yep. And hey, if somebody buys it on there, great. If not, they could probably buy it and get bonuses on his site or whatever, right? The idea is like, look, this thing is super valuable. Like I've got a book on summits that I'm writing this year, and it's detailed. It's basically a masterclass in a book, Ben Settle style, if you will. That's only going to be for sale for people on my list. And, I suppose somebody could find the link somewhere, but it's not going to be on Amazon. But I am going to put a bunch of smaller books about each section of your summit on Amazon. People get into that. And then, look, if they can learn, if they get enough of what they need from your book, that's great. If not, they should get the course. If not, from there, they might hire you for coaching or done for you or something like that. But now it's just, because people like, if somebody's watching this now, and probably everybody, right? That's who's this Ray guy? Then they go look on Amazon and there's like 20 books out there.
Exactly. Yep.
And so then they're like, oh, he's not some nobody that Matt pulled out of the garage, so it's although maybe I am, but so I just, that part I love. And the other thing I'll say, we talk about summits. I mean, you give me your feedback on this, but because you're this unbelievable connector of people and influencer connector. And I've never seen a jump start like that for anybody like a summit does, because and here's why. I've kind of, let's say I've grown up through the self-publishing world.
Yeah.
And one of the things all these courses teach on, so you got to connect with other influencers and get them to promote your book and do this. That's virtually, unless they've got someone like you doing it for them, that's virtually impossible. If you're just starting and you just got your first book out, and then they tell you to write these tacky emails to people that have reviewed books in the same, it's like, well, let's just, if I come to you and I don't know you, I'm like, Matt, I just wrote a book on writing books. Would you mind sharing it with your audience, blah, blah, blah. And I'll share with my audience. I got 2 people on my list. There's no incentive for you to do that. And you don't have time, by the way, but if I say, Matt, I've got 30 other people going to be on this summit, their audiences are coming in. You don't even care if I've got 2 in my audience or not. That all these other speakers are going to be sharing with their audiences, and now you're going to get exposure, and you're going to send your audience to that or whatever. It's a huge value. My ask of you is providing you huge value, as opposed to me saying, hey, would you share my book and I'll share your book? No, that doesn't work. But you can instantly get people to, become part of your slowly building influencer circle by doing a summit.
No, man, I agree. And I mean, of course, now you have the audience. And if you do decide to get your book published by a publisher, I mean, I can tell you, I sat there with the guy who used to be the acquisitions guy from one of the top 15 publishers in the country. And I had asked him a year before, and should I get a publisher or self-publish? He's like, dude, you need to self-publish. And then I'm sitting there with him. He came down to Fort Wayne from Grand Rapids. We were sitting in Starbucks. And I was like, well, what do you think? Should I get what do you think now? This is a year later. Should I get a publisher, or self-publish? And he was like, how big's your audience? And I told him. He goes, oh, yeah, we can get you a publisher. Like you can get a big book deal. And why? What had changed? my list size. That's it. It's the only thing that had changed. My expertise was 2% better. I mean, the reality is, and I don't mean this the way it might sound, I've been in this game for 15 years. I'm only getting 2 or 4% better every year. It's like there's only so much I can grow. I value that 2 to 4%. I will spend 100 plus hours, over the course every quarter or so to get that 2 to 4% better. I learn stuff, I innovate, we try stuff and we screw stuff up and we, whatever, but I'm only getting a little bit better. That's not why I suddenly was able to get a book deal or able to be in a position to get a book deal. It was just because I had the audience. So here's the thing, man. I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. I want to have Ray back on if he's up for it, because maybe in the new year, and I want to dive in. I want to hear from you guys. We're going to pick book or summits. I think we're just going to let the people choose. So regardless of when you're watching this, if you're watching the replay, just type the word book or type the word summit or summits, books or summits, either one. Here in a couple weeks, we'll tally those up. Whatever has the most, that's what we're going to do the next one on. Does that sound fair enough, Ray?
Absolutely. Cool. And I want to answer Jolynn real quick, because no, summits don't need 30 people. In fact, I probably recommend, we're doing one right now this week with 15 on virtual summits, by the way. I've got one I'm planning to do that may have 8 or 10 and just be like a 1 or 2 day summit. And then from a publisher standpoint, look, I'm never going to say never, but I can't, I have a lot more trouble helping people launch their books if a publisher's involved, because they don't have control over the price. They don't have control over the publishing account. And a lot of the things we do are in there. Not to disagree with anything you're doing, Matt, but but there's no reason you shouldn't just self-publish a book. And like you said, they want the publishers. You would think of them as the ones that are going to get you the bandwidth, the broad exposure. No, they're expecting you to do that. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of taking a chunk to kind of organize all the rest. And that's great. If you've got the audience and you've done, if not, just, you can self-publish, look, I could take this video right now and turn it into a book within a week. And maybe I should actually, but anyway. So no, I got enough going on right now, but I mean, we could do that. We should probably do that like for the next one.
Because this is super time sensitive. Yeah, this is super time sensitive, guys. I want to talk about some. So again, type book or summits, whichever one. We're going to have Ray back on in the new year. And we're going to, so far, books is leading, but let us know. Just type book, books, whatever, plural, singular, doesn't matter, or summit or summits, and then we'll discuss that. And you can't say both, Linda. No, I'm just kidding. You can say both. I mean, maybe we'll have them on. Ray and I are friends, so we'll probably just do a bunch of these. Like he said earlier, I did two sessions. Was I the only one who did 2 sessions on your summit?
Yep.
Was that? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Hang on.
Yeah. Well,
Robbie, can you zoom out?
You could have done about 5 sessions. Yeah. Okay,
Listen, I want to talk about something, man. This has been amazing, guys. Give Ray some love, but let me tell you about this thing that he touched on earlier. This thing called Uru, and this is, I mean, Uru is freaking awesome. I'm going to tell you one of my favorite parts of Uru, and you guys are going to have a very unique and special opportunity to be able to join Ray's community. There's so much good stuff in there, guys. Like we don't even have time to talk about it all because mainly because I got to go. But actually, I've got a call in like 15 minutes, and I want to talk with you, Ray, before my 3:30 call, if you have time for a phone call. One of my favorite parts of Uru, we sort of touched on this earlier. It's called the dark side. This is like this is your secret podcast on handling trolls and I don't know, like cancelers or whatever you want to call them. And actually, the cool thing is you teach something that you learned from Ben Settle, and I learned this too, about how to take trolls and haters and profit from them. And this is something that I did. And I was thinking of you when I did this and thinking of Ben. This guy left this Facebook message, this messenger thing, and it was like, F you, you bleeping bleeper, bleep, bleep, bleepity bleep. I hope you die, all that stuff. I don't know if you saw this, but I took it and I changed, like when he called me a bleep hole, I turned it into the word alligator, and it was like,
Yes, I did. See
you're a piece of awesome sauce or something like. And I took his words and like crossed him out and put in, it was like that game Mad Libs. You remember that, where it's like name a noun, and it made no sense. And I took that and we turned it into an ad. We only have like 3 profitable ads, like ads that are profitable in the first 7 days. We play the long game with our ads. Like as long as we can make money sometime within like the first year, we're good. We only have like 3 profitable ads, and this was one of them. We took that. And so, I mean, I love, tell us what else, like there's some really cool stuff inside of Uru. And guys, just go, before we get into it, go check it out at mattmcwilliams.com/Uru. I don't know if Robbie is able to drop links. Robbie, I think you're watching. Robbie has a computer issue. So it's, yes, he is. He's able to drop links. Cool. So mattmcwilliams.com/Uru. Just real quick, tell us what they're getting, because there's so much amazing, awesome sauce in this.
Well, so the idea behind Uru is each month we deliver a new course, masterclass, and framework. So for January, for instance, it's my bestseller framework. And it just, look, everybody's like, this is intimidating. Writing a book's intimidating. Then how do you market it?
It is.
And I just like, the last 4 years just had this process that I just go down the checklist, jink, 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 and all my done for you clients, get bestseller. And so there's 2 sides of this. One is, once you know how to do it, it's not that hard actually on Amazon. But 2, because of that, you should do it, because if the people in the know that it's not that hard, then if you don't do it, you should do it. So, but anyway, I basically, when people contact me like, hey, could you launch my book? I'm like, look, you could do it yourself. The first thing I say is, you can do it yourself. I'll give you my book on how to do it. But in the masterclass, it does the demos and stuff for you, and walks you through it. So that's January's course. But each month that you're enrolled, a new course comes out. So you get a new course, and it's not a $2,000 course, right? It's for a cup of coffee a day or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then right now, for you, for your audience, we're basically doing, a founders edition, where you're also going to get my super system for authors. So everybody that's on here is like, I want to write a book. The masterclass for this is a bonus you get immediately if you sign up for Uru TV. And then you also get the Matt McWilliams Advanced Book Revenues course that we basically did together. Or I extracted the information out of you, we should say. So I've put that in there, and I'm actually going to add. What's that? You don't remember doing that? Advanced Book Revenues?
I remember doing that. And then, guys, like, this is some stuff. This Advanced Book Revenues training, we talk about like passive income from a book. Basically ways to earn revenue from a book that most authors miss. Like, most authors are just not, like, most authors think they're going to get rich off the book. That's, who gets rich off books? J.K. Rowling and that Patterson guy. That's about it. 99.9%. Yeah, you're only going to make money if you have the ways, if you use the book to make money. I don't really share this stuff. Like, this is not stuff I've shared publicly. It's not in any of our courses. It doesn't fit in our courses, quite frankly. We have a little bit of a bonus lesson in the new No Product, No Problem course that's coming out soon. We have a little bit of a bonus lesson that I probably touch on a couple of these things, but this was all stuff that Ray, like, had it up here, and Ray like pulled it out and got me to share this stuff. So that's
pulling it out. He means, like, I just said, what do you know about this? And he's like, I got 6 things. Here they are.
Yeah. So guys, this is a really unique opportunity to get in on Uru. I'm really excited about this. Here's the thing. And I mean, sincerely, like, this deal does go away tomorrow at midnight. So make sure you go to that link and get in. I do want to ask you guys one question, and then we'll finish up talking about Uru. How many of you have thought about, dreamed about, whatever, planned on, talked about, put it on your goals for that year, have thought about writing a book for more than, let's go 2 years. I'll go 18 months, for more than 18 months, but you still haven't? Just let me know in the chat. I'm curious how many of those there you are. The reason I asked that is, let me raise my hand, because I'm a published author.
20 years.
Yeah, if you want to get technical, I'm a published author. I'm in like 4 or 5 books. but that's like a chapter. I contributed a whole chapter to the book.
Which is still, that's very valuable to do.
Don't get me
Go ahead.
wrong. We get a lot of leads from those. But I've been talking about writing a book. I mean, well, at the very least, since before Robbie joined our team, and he's probably at the point where he's like, dude, if you don't write this book soon, I don't want to ever hear you use the word book again. Like, you're not allowed to read a book, see a book, buy a book until you write the freaking thing, right? I'm beginning to, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe behind the scenes, I'm just beginning to think he might be getting mad at me about this. I've been talking about it for so long. I still haven't written it. I'm close, it's further along than it was last month and the month before that and the month before that. So if you guys, here's what I'm going to do. I did not plan on this, but I was just, as I was seeing kind of the chat today and going through, I was thinking about this. If you guys join Uru this week, so through that link, right? One of the things that I'm going to do sometime in the next 6 months, I'm going to do a special training just for, I'm saying I'm going to do this special training, and Ray's like, what? I didn't say you could do this. It's not going to be in Uru, although you can take this if you want. But I'm going to do it for my audience. For everyone who joins Uru through this link, this is just like, this is me like really trying desperately to get you to join Uru because I love Ray. And I think that you're going to get so much value out of this. So I want to sweeten the pot a little bit. When you do, I'm going to do a training later this year about how I wrote my book and the exact process. Basically, what I'm going to be teaching you is, here's what Ray taught me. I'm doing, but it's from my perspective, and you're going to get to kind of look over my virtual shoulder. I have been keeping a journal of sorts about my book writing journey specifically for this. I wasn't really planning on selling it or doing anything with it. I just thought it'd be kind of cool. And we were actually thinking about making it into like a little documentary series on YouTube or something. I don't know what we were going to do with it. Just, I've been keeping like a little video journal. It's a bunch of selfie videos and written stuff. So I'm going to share that with you guys. I'm going to do a debrief and a training, share that, basically open my journal to you guys when you purchase through, when you get Uru, when you sign up. So again, we'll decide exactly when that'll be. It'll be once the book is finished. You guys will get to see the whole process over my shoulder. So hopefully that sweetens the pot enough for you guys to say, yep, I got to learn more from Ray. This has been the longest Facebook Live we've ever done, Ray, like ever, just as a side note.
Cool.
And I feel like we scratched the surface. There's so much more you could share.
I know it feels like we just started.
Did I say later this year? I thought dude, I just saw Gwen's comment later this year. I meant next year. Holy crap. I feel like it's January. I'm already in January mode, dude. I'm like, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and it's I'll add because the book you talked about in one of your emails this week was the 7 book writing hacks for entrepreneurs. So I'm putting in that in as a bonus too. It's not even on the page right now, but for your audience as well, because there's as I've seen the comments, there's a lot of people that have content but not the book. And that's just another idea. Now, I would still take the super system course first and then do the 7 book writing hacks. The framework is somewhat similar of how you organize it, in an outline at the beginning. But then you can take things like a course, like your list of Facebook Lives, like a blog, and like a podcast, and turn those into a book quickly and easily. And you should. I mean, one of the best books out there is James Altucher's Choose Yourself. And it literally is just, they copied and pasted all of his, transcripts into our blog posts into the book. And you can even see, like, they didn't even take out like the links to the next blog post in the, on the pages. They put it in there. It's still a super valuable book.
It's a best-selling book for a while.
I mean, you look in there, and the version I got, maybe they've cleaned it since then, but I got one of the first versions, and because I was following him when it came out, and it was like, man, they didn't even. This is proof. You just got to get a book out there, because they didn't even take out all the kind of links and typos and arrows, and it's like, I mean, the links didn't work in the print edition, but they're in there, like go to next page or whatever. It's like, but still, because you don't care. The content's easy.
Go.
Right. And the point is,
we've reached that point, Ray, where I'm knocking over microphones.
Yeah. The point is, perfectionism is going to be the enemy here. Get it done. And that's why,
Oh,
right now we're giving both the how to write and then how to launch it, is coming out January, beginning first week of January into your portal. But you sign up now, you get in, you get the super system, you get advanced book revenues, and you've got this portal. And every month that you stay on board, we add it, and we've got an amazing ridiculous annual thing too. So anyway, but if not, at the very least, consider doing your book. And now I had planned to sing a Christmas carol to sign off today. Are you ready for that?
On the agenda, right? At all.
Pretty sure it's on my agenda.
Think it just says end.
All right, I'm just going to start singing, and you're going to join in. You better watch out. You better not shout. You coming? You better not cry. I'm telling. I just watched Elf, and they sing it at the climatic scene. I'm telling you why.
No, I'm just kidding.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
No, we're watching.
I'm not leaving until you sing.
I just sang. We're 14 days away from Elf. That's our tradition. We wrap the kids' presents on Christmas Eve and watch Elf. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Yeah, doing great.
The best way to spread Christmas cheer is to sing loud for everyone to hear. Now I want to hear you hear it. Yeah. So
congratulations, guys. You did it. World's best cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So many great lines in that movie. Oh gosh.
There's a great making of that movie on I think it's Netflix or somewhere, but talks about how they, went back and forth, and they were saying Will Ferrell can't lead a movie, and finally New Line took it or whatever. It's pretty interesting.
They have offered him an obscene amount of money to do an Elf 2, and he won't do it. He said there's no way to, he cannot do a sequel that's anything less than that.
Right.
It's like, even if it's, that was the thing, is Rocky 2 was nowhere on the level of Rocky 1. And then it went down even further. Rocky 4 was pretty darn good, but Rocky 5 sucked.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And then the other one, it's like,
they're just to make money, instead of really.
And you know what? I can't fault them. I would do the same thing. If you want to offer me $25 million to make a crappy movie, I'll go make a crappy movie all day long. Anyway, dude, this has been amazing. We'll have you back on
whenever you want.
Go sign up for you. Make sure you use that link, because then we'll see who signed up through us, and you'll get that special training and all the other stuff. Guys, there's just so much that you're going to get in this, but it's not overwhelming because it's very systematized. It's almost like he's giving you the 50-page manual, once a month, and saying, here's your stuff, go do it. You're not going to get overwhelmed. So that's the most important.
And then you make it your own. I mean, it's kind of like
make it your own. Yep.
Don't try to invent your own framework before you know how to do it. Just use somebody else's, then take it and tailor it to yourself. But this stuff works. That's
a whole lesson there. It's like, just find something that's proven to work, and then you can edit it over time.
Yep.
But follow the framework. So follow Ray's framework. And so Jolynn, Robbie will drop that link one more time. It is Matt McWilliams, because I can't drop links right now for whatever reason. It's mattmcwilliams.com/YOURU. So Jolynn, we'll see you in there, because I'll be in there too, guys. Just FYI. So I'm going to be going through. I mean, I've learned more about writing a book from a roughly 20-minute conversation in the hallway at a conference from Ray than I'd learned prior to that in my whole life. Practical stuff to actually get the book done, not amount of stuff, but stuff that's actually had an impact. Yeah, that conversation you and I had, I think it was in the Sheraton in Scottsdale, maybe. I don't know, where Phoenix-ish.
So. Yeah.
I learned more in that 20 minutes. You and your wife and Tara, my wife, learned more in that 20 minutes than I learned prior. So thank you, brother.
You too, man. Thanks for having me. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.